Hey guys and girls, welcome to another My Friendly IT Guy video. Today we've got a bit of a doozy. I am going to be sharing with the world my famous God's View script that I wrote in PowerShell over the last decade, since 2012. It's been years and years in development, and it's an amazing script. It's only about 2,500 lines of code, but its purpose is pretty cool. So basically it's a script that I take with me to each new contract job opportunity where I basically work for an employer and they ask me to do level 3 type support. And the first thing I want to do is understand the environment that I've been brought into. How many servers do they have? Is it all Windows stuff? Is it everything in Active Directory? Are all the servers in the same subnets? How many different networks are there? Is everything being monitored? Is there hard drive space capacity issues? Are DNS settings correct? And so on. It's a massive list of questions. And this script, basically you run it from a domain controller. It's safe. And it will basically query Active Directory depending on the command line parameters. And it will get a list of all computers and or servers depending to your needs. And then query each computer with 7 WMI queries, building a Excel spreadsheet on the fly. Or if Excel is not available on your domain controller, which I hope it's not, then it will produce a CSV file as output, which you can then open and obviously do what you like with. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So all of the PowerShell scripts that I'll be sharing with you, the world, are going to be displayed on my website. So I've actually put in a lot of effort to modify the code, modify the site, enable it to actually host such scripts. And I'll give you an example of this one. So we've got the Active Directory Environment Server WMI Auditing God's View script. Now I call it God's View because it gives you God's view of an environment. So you get to see everything as he or she would. So if we click on that, basically this is the page you'll be able to download the code from. There is a blurb in here explaining some of the information and a link to this YouTube video right there. And then, yep, the code is right there in its raw entirety. Simply do a Control A, however you want, select, drag it all the way down, copy that. Let's paste that into a brand new Notepad++ file, and there it is. And you can straight away hit save on that. Let's save that as ctemp. Let's call it temp.ps1 for now, or we can call it God's View. God's View script.ps1. Now, the original file, if I just flick screens, is this one here. And the one we've just downloaded, it includes 2 extra lines, which is just the header information, which is the suggestion for the file save name. But if we scroll down, you'll notice that these 2 files, apart from the fact that there's 2 lines different, what I've just explained, they are absolutely identical. So you are going to be reassured knowing that the code you've downloaded from my website is exactly as it's meant to be. Okay, so let's have a look. What we'll do is we can actually run that one. I was going to showcase the file I keep here in my PowerShell scripts folder. Let's go to ctemp and just have a look what files we've got. So we've got God's View script.ps1. We can just run that. Now we've got a optional help command line parameter, and it basically outputs some help information. Very useful. It's all hard coded here at the very top of the script. So basically this help section is what is output when you use the help command line parameter. And we have some options. We can run it with server list, which basically allows you to specify a text file to use as input. Otherwise, you can specify a custom domain. If, for example, if you're in a multi-domain environment and you don't want to run the script against the current domain, exclude these. This is just a text file list of any computers that you wish to exclude. Perhaps they're behind a firewall, they're problematic, they don't have WinRM enabled, or they're just inaccessible. Perhaps they're in a DMZ. So you can basically list anything that's let's say if you're using this against an Active Directory, any computers that return by that query, you can just put them in the excluded text file, and they'll be excluded from being audited. Alternate path, alt path, is basically just allows you to choose a different save path for the resulting Excel or CSV file. Invisible is only if you're not outputting to CSV, so Excel will actually pop up, and I'll show you that in a moment. Excel pops up and the script writes to each cell, jumping around. It's quite magic to see and watch. So invisible basically keeps the Excel window minimized so that you don't accidentally click within it while the script is doing its work, because that can throw the data off and be put into the incorrect cells and things like that. So while the script is writing to Excel, you don't want to be clicking around within that same Excel window. So that's why the invisible switch was added. Naming convention, this was hard-coded for a particular customer. So basically you probably won't need that, but you can of course open this parameter, search for it in the code, and you can customize that to your environment. For example, maybe you've got multiple domains or something, or a particular naming convention for your servers, so you can do that. Otherwise, if you just stick with all Active Directory computers or just a default runtime, it will get what you need, I guess, out of Active Directory. Now, skip WMI is useful if WMI is not working in your environment. You don't have WinRM enabled, or the appropriate firewall ports, or RPC, remote procedure call, is not responsive or accessible, or you don't have PS remoting enabled on your machines and they're not manageable remotely. Then basically skipping WMI will just get the Active Directory information and give you an Excel file, which is still very useful, but obviously without the WMI information, you're limited to what is stored in Active Directory. And skip ping is for those environments where you might have a stealth environment where pings are blocked, ICMP is not permitted. The script would, in its default run state, attempt to ping a machine, and if it responds to ping, then it will attempt the WMI queries. Now, the reason that this option is here, because some environments that I've worked in, ping was blocked, ICMP was denied, and this basically meant that results were coming back empty. So on the other hand, however, if you don't skip the ping and something is timing out, it will drastically increase the execution time for this script, because it will try and ping something and it will take a long time before it actually times out. So this option is great if you're confident that all your machines are accessible, but perhaps some of them are not pingable. All Active Directory computers, it's basically a wildcard. It gets everything. It doesn't make any, it doesn't care if it's a server operating system or it has the word or letters OS in the operating system part of the property on that computer. It will just get anything. So workstations, computers, servers, everything. No domain. So if Active Directory web services are not available, that means you are not able to access Active Directory remotely, or you don't even have an Active Directory environment, such as in the demonstration here, then use no domain to bypass trying to get Active Directory information, and you will then be forced to use the server list method to provide a list of target computers that you wish to audit. And of course, we've got CSV output. If Excel is not available, output to CSV, pretty self-explanatory. And this help module, which basically provides this. So we do have a server list that I've populated. I've got 4 machines on my network. One of them is actually off. So we've got 3 that are accessible and 1 is not responsive to WMI. So we're going to run the script against those and have a look at what it produces. So if we go to here and we go God's view script, we're going to say no domain. We can type in server list, but it will actually prompt us in this particular case because no domain basically says, well, you need server list, because the alternative is Active Directory, which if it's not available, then you need to provide. So let's run no domain. We're going to write to Excel. We're not doing CSV output, so we're not going to use any of these other parameters. We don't need to skip ping or WMI or anything. Okay, so we're just going to run this script with just a domain parameter, and as soon as we do, it's going to complain about a server list. So we push enter or switch to Excel, and we will see the script actually writing on the fly. Now, all of these columns here are blank. If Active Directory was available, which this is not a domain environment, then I would have all this information about whether the computer object is enabled or not, its IPv4 address, its distinguished name, operating system details, the system version, when it was created in Active Directory, when it was last modified, the password last set for the computer object, a description, and the WMI columns start here. So if there was a description for these machines, then it will be coming through from column Z onwards. And now we can see some basic information about the operating system, the WMI manufacturer obtained information. We can see we've got an MSI GE63 Radar laptop. We're going to say, yes, we want to save. Okay, so that saves and closes the file. So we're just going to open that back up. Now, as the last thing it does before it closes the file, it actually freezes the top row and adds filters, and also adjusts all of the columns so they are auto fit. Now, in most Active Directory environments, we won't have this ping fail because the ping results will be returned. This is a slightly more secure stealth environment that I'm running here, so the pings are blocked. We do have some DNS values coming back for some of the machines on my network here. Active Directory, all these details are blank because we don't have an Active Directory environment. We can see the operating system version, the CPU sockets, cores per CPU. If you are auditing a SQL server and you need to know exactly how many cores and CPUs and so on for licensing reasons, then definitely trust this AO column. We've got memory in gigabytes count, how many DIMMs, how many RAM chips, and details about each DIMM chip. So we've got two 8 gig chips here, and we've got a 4 gig chip on this particular machine. So basically all of the following columns are for network adapter 1. And then we move on to network adapter 2, network adapter 3, network 4, 5, and then we finally reach the hard drive details. So these columns here are dynamically added, meaning you will end up with more and more columns in the Excel file or the CSV if you come across a computer or server that has, dozens of logical drives or mapped drives available on it. So that's pretty much it. That's the Excel file that's produced. Obviously, if you've run this against an Active Directory environment with 1,000 computers and servers in there, this spreadsheet will be massive and very useful. It's something you can run on a weekly basis and see if there's any issues, things like DNS settings. Are the correct DNS servers set up for your DHCP scopes? Are you using DHCP on any of your network adapters in the environment on your servers, and perhaps you haven't got DHCP reservations configured? So you're just fluking the fact that the servers without statically configured IP addresses are actually reachable constantly. So it's just a lot of things you can discover if you scroll through the items and then basically find a particular column of interest and scroll down through it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a very useful script that I'm sharing here with the world. So please like and subscribe. Please make a comment down below, and please tell your friends about this channel and help me to spread the message. And I'm going to be posting many more videos and many more scripts that will help you in your career or get into the IT industry. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you very soon on the next video where we run through the script in detail. Thanks everyone.